And and I'm living up and
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another Future Focus weekly update. I am hopefully keeping you 10 steps ahead of what is happening at the intersection of business technology and human experience, and hopefully helping you make sense of some of this stuff. So I've got another rundown of updates for you, share some perspective and just reflections on all this stuff. And hopefully you all find it helpful. If you do, I'd love it if you leave a review or a rating on whatever platform you listen to it on, or share it with a friend. That always helps. So with that, let's get straight into it. I've got 5 updates I want to touch on today. The first I hinted at last week. If you didn't catch that, I actually have a personal update. So it's news, but yeah, it's news related to me, and I think there's a lot that I think I would actually share based on reflections from it. So if you have not heard, if you're not connected to me on LinkedIn or we have not talked live, my wife and I welcomed a healthy baby boy into the world a couple weeks ago. So we are now on baby number 8, and we are so thankful, so happy about it. It has been absolutely awesome. And I think it's been really exciting because it was an amazing new start coming right on the heels of the ending of my time at ChenMed. And so it's been this weird kind of hard, but really healthy and exciting mix of, well, one chapter closed and a new chapter begun. And so that's been really, really fun. If I've been a little quieter, or maybe had bigger bags under my eyes than I normally do, I guess you can probably understand where some of that's coming from. But I think in terms of, just some context around this, for anybody who's followed me for any length of time, I'm usually extremely public about these. I'm public about, when my wife gets pregnant, I'm public about the birth and all this right on the heels of it, often hours, if not maybe 24 hours after the baby. And this time we opted to just keep it quiet. So for some of you who have known me for a while, if you're like, wow, I didn't even know you were expecting, that was intentional. We made the decision to keep it quiet. And, I guess by the time you get to number 8, sometimes it's just more fun to surprise people with things because you've had 8. So what other surprises do you have? And, eventually it does get old getting the unsolicited advice and the comments, probably just well intended, but don't always land well of, where they come from and when are you going to stop and all that good stuff. So needless to say, we kept this one quiet. And unfortunately, the one downside is that when you decide to keep things quiet, people have very strong opinions on that as well. And so as we began sharing news of our new birth, let's just put it this way. There were certain people that it did not go so well with. People who believed that they were entitled to that information and were offended that we had not shared that information with them until this point. And my point in sharing that is actually not necessarily to talk about that situation. And, I'm sure there's going to be people who have strong feelings on one end or the other. Ultimately, that's what we decided to do. And, but there were 3 takeaways that I wanted to share because as I've ended up talking with some people privately about some of this stuff, there's a lot of relevant takeaways that I think many people would benefit from. And so me being transparent is kind of the history of how I built my brand of just sharing what's going on and sharing what I think I'm learning through it and what I think others might be able to learn through the experience as well. And so one of the biggest ones that I would say is, there's definitely been ups and downs with things going not how you expected, expecting to surprise people with the exciting news of a new baby and to be met with anger and disappointment and finger pointing. That's not fun. And that definitely has had moments where that has robbed some of the joy from the experience. But one of the things that my wife and I have really been learning through this experience and going through it over the past week and a half is that people can really only take from you what you're willing to give them. And so as we've been going through this, there have definitely been moments where we've wanted to kind of like let it bring us down, let us have a, poor me moment in the whole thing. And as we've done that, we've both worked hard to encourage each other to say, hey, this is a universally amazing thing, and we are going to celebrate this. And someone not being happy the same way we are happy does not have to rob us of that joy unless we allow it to. And I think that's important for people to consider with a lot of things, because especially now in a social media world where so much information is put out there, so much information is shared, and there's this pressure to try and live up to whatever expectations other people may have of you. And when you do that, not everybody's going to like it. And when they don't, there can be tremendous pressure to just start to feel like the joy you had has been taken from you. And the reality is that joy doesn't have to be taken from you. And I say that from a very painful personal experience. So I'm not saying this out to people who may be going through something similar to diminish the frustration, the pain, the things you may be experiencing. They're real. And I know because I'm experiencing it myself right now. But at the same time, we are working really diligently to say, but we choose whether that's going to affect us that way, or whether we're going to change and shift our focus on the really awesome experience that we have right now. And so I hope that's an encouragement to people who maybe have felt like they've been kind of punched in the face over something that they were really excited about, whether it's big or small, that you don't have to let that punch knock the wind out of you. And there is a way to step forward into it. I think the second thing that I would share with this is, or really anybody out there, going back to this pressure that we have, whether it's social media, whether it's family pressure, pressure from families to live up to some expectation that someone has of you or what they think they need you to be for them, or whether it's your boss who has an unrealistic expectation of who you need to be or how you need to behave or who you need to be as a person. You ultimately have to make the decisions that are in the best interest of you and your families. And that doesn't mean you don't take into consideration the perspectives of others, the way that your actions may affect other people, and just go, I'm going to do what I want and I don't really care. By no means would I ever encourage that. And for those of you who listen and follow me, you know that I am a follower of Jesus Christ. And so for me, it is very much like, no, I'm not following a standard based on what I believe is right. I'm looking to something outside of myself to gauge that. And so don't interpret that as me encouraging or telling people, go out there, do what you want, scorch the earth around you. It's your life to live. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is there can be unhealthy pressures from different places for you to act, behave, and do things that are not right or wrong. It's just pressure to do things that other people want from you. And that can be debilitating. And it can be extremely suffocating to feel like you're living your life, living up to someone else's definition of what your life should be. And I would just encourage people to say, you don't have to live up to someone else's expectation. From my point of view, you will ultimately be judged by the ultimate set of standards, not some other person's. But regardless of whether you share that worldview or not, you still don't need to live up to someone else's fallen, broken expectations of you, especially when you consider the fact that they really know very little about your life. And so whatever perspective they may have, you can take it, you can consider it, you can examine it and weigh whether it's valuable or not. From my perspective, you weigh that against biblical text, and then you decide what you do with it because you're the one who's ultimately going to have to live with the decisions you make. And so I would just encourage people, especially younger people. I know it's a lot harder when you're younger, but it doesn't necessarily get easier when you're older or as you move up into company or whatever, cultural trends tell you. Once you get here, you don't deal with this pressure. You deal with this pressure all the time. And I personally am feeling the weight of that significantly right now. And so I would just encourage others to walk the same path that we've chosen to walk this week and say, no, we weighed, we considered all these things. We made a decision based on what was in the best interest of our family and making sure that we weren't doing anything wrong in making that decision. And if other people don't like it, that's okay. Even if it's people who feel like they should have a say in what you decide. And the final point I will say is to extended family, or even friends or coworkers, whatever you think your relationship is to someone. I just want to say right now, regardless of who you are not entitled to information about someone. You're not entitled to dictate to them what they should or shouldn't do. That is not your place to get involved in that. And ultimately, and that doesn't change because you're a blood relative or you're someone's boss or you're whatever it is. It really does not matter. And I think the biggest thing with that is that really should be an opportunity for everyone to reflect on that and recognize that the quality of the relationships you have with family, with friends, with coworkers is directly tied to how you treat them. And if you're not happy with the relationships you have with others, I'll just tell you right now, your best bet is not to go to them and tell you what's wrong with the relationship and demand that they need to do these things to fix it for them. The best thing you can do is look in the mirror and go, what am I doing that could be contributing to the dysfunction of this relationship that may be making it strained or distant or not quite what I want? And am I placing unspoken expectations on them that either they're unable to achieve or they've never been communicated? And so with that, little bit of insight into some personal news that's happening, but also some really key takeaways that I think would be valuable. I know I'm learning and having to walk through those myself, but I think they're things that would be beneficial for really truly anyone to hear. Because anybody I've talked to and shared some of this has said, wow, yeah, I can absolutely relate to that. So there's that. All right. Let's move on to some more of the familiar updates you would usually hear from me related to tech and business and all this other stuff. So one popped up in my news feed the other day. Actually, I got a number of messages about this one. If you haven't heard, Canva, probably one of the most popular tools, SaaS tools out there for creating graphics, presentations, whatever. I personally have been a big user of Canva. I'm not sponsored by them, anything like that. I just happen to love the tool. Um, they're taking some major heat right now, major heat, because if you have not read the little notification at the top of your Canva application that says, "Hey, just want to let you know there's some update to your pricing coming in January." Uh, yeah, it's not like a marginal update. Just as an FYI, if you have not clicked that link or you have not seen the headlines, yeah, be prepared to you want to talk getting punched in the gut and having the wind knocked out of you. The Canva price hike is going to probably knock some wind out of your sails. They're actually increasing it 400% on a Teams plan. Now, if you were not familiar with Canva Teams before, for $120, you could get a Canva Pro account that would give you the ability to share that with 4 other people or 5 other people, something like that. And now that's going from $120 up to about $500. So that's a huge hike. And they are offering a 40% discount for the first year, but then it goes up. And I mean, in my industry, the industry I've been in, I know this is a huge tool in marketing, learning, comms. But I know tons of business owners, small business owners that use this tool. This is a significant shift and they're taking major heat for it. And here's why. One of the biggest reasons, and I think we're going to start seeing this in a lot of areas. Okay. I've said for a long time, we get this perception that AI is just free and it's just this thing that's out there that is freely available and everybody has access to it. And there should be no big deal, right? But it costs a lot of money. And so all these apps out there that are adding AI functionality and AI capabilities into their tools, they're paying for that. And they're paying a pretty penny for that. So every time you go into Canva and go, like, let's have it do this thing with AI, they're getting charged for that token usage. They're getting hit with that usage fees. And at some point, a company's got to go, ooh, we have invested so heavily in AI. Our margins were huge before. It's starting to crimp on our margins. Now, I'm familiar enough with the SaaS space that the margins are insane. So, we could get into a debate about whether SaaS really needs to increase its pricing 400% to accommodate its increase of AI. But the reality is I understand SaaS companies who were, in some ways, I don't think it was necessary, but in some ways felt significant pressure to go, we got to add AI to our tool. We got to add it. We got to have it. It's the thing to do. We got to fit it in here. And to be fair, I think Canva has done a relatively good job of integrating it in some decent ways. Okay. It's not great, but it's decent. So it's not like they're doing it in ways where you're like, what are you doing? Why would you even do it? They're doing it in ways that are relevant and applied to the tool they have. So I get it. There's been pressure. You got to have AI. People say they want it, even though they don't even really understand what they want. And so there's pressure to do it. And that comes at a cost. And at some point, somebody looks at the balance sheet and goes, hey, we got to do something about this because we were spending this much money before. Now we added all this function. It's costing us this much. We're not going to have the same margins we had before. Now, I understand that. And so I understand as a business, you have to have those conversations. You need to evaluate it. You need to determine what it is. But there are some real lessons that I think Canva is going to learn the hard way from the approach that they took, because a 400% price increase out of the blue, the market is not responding well. People are super upset about this because it really did come out of left field, especially because historically Canva has been branded as the affordable tool that every business should use. And so volume was really their game. Everybody used Canva. And it was because it was so affordable. And it was like, why wouldn't you have Canva? You might as well. Like, to not have it would almost be stupid. And so they went that route. And so when you were that tool, that was your brand, that was your reputation. And suddenly you go, hey, now we're upping it 400% to be more in line with what I would consider more high-end specialty tools. A large portion of your market's going to go, yeah, that's not what we signed up for. And all this is not, like, we use your tool, but it's not worth that much money to us. And I think they're going to see a lot of people who go, we love your tool, we don't love it that. And that has been a large response from the market. And if you want to see the top Google hit this week, one of the top Google hits is Canva alternatives, as people run out to the market to see, hey, who's not doing this? And the reality is there's other players that have had time to catch up. Now, I think one of the other things that is really going to hurt Canva in the long run in this is, and I think other tech companies are going to feel the same pain. And this is one of the same risks I warn, whether you're a technology company or a practitioner. Chasing AI for the sake of AI will come back to burn you in the end. And as I look at what Canva did, like I said, their use of AI is relevant to the tool. I will give them that. That said, the number of features and functionality that they've added that nobody was asking for and nobody really needs. Like, when you really look at it, is it kind of neat that you can do this? I guess. But would I also be fine had you never done that? Yeah. Because again, remember, Canva specifically was the tool that was noted for being the affordable, everyday office tool for everything you could ever do. Anybody can have access to it. Many of the people in that group were going, you know what? I need the latest AI image gen capabilities. You know what? I need the latest AI presentation creation capability. If people want that, they go to Beautiful AI. If people want image gen, they go to, their GPT Pro account. If people want, like, these kinds of things are things people weren't asking for. And so when an organization says, we're doing this against everything that we've stood for in the past, and now we're going to make you, the customer, pay for it, not going to go well. I mean, I could have predicted this a long time ago in a board meeting when it was like, hey, this AI stuff, it's really expensive. At some point, we're going to have to we'll figure it out later. Let's just keep adding features and we'll wow people with what we can do with it. This was a train headed for disaster. And while I'm sure they'll ultimately be fine and recover because people have become so dependent on Canva, which maybe that was their strategy all along, get everybody hooked and then, jack the price, which wouldn't be the first. But I know lots of people who would go, yeah, we like it, but like, it's easy enough for us to find an alternative. Like, we'll just download our presentations and then we'll hijack and move them over to something else that costs 400% less. Now that said, here's the critique to all the outrage over it. here's where I would say to the folks who are blowing their stacks about Canva increasing their AI or their costs due to AI features that nobody wanted and legitimate critiques. Here's what I would say though. I remember going Canva Teams is $120 a year. What is that a mistake? Like I legitimately remember thinking to myself, is this a mistake to give 5 licenses to this software away for $120 a year? It almost didn't make sense to me. Um, and I think that was a bad business strategy in and of itself. To people who are in business or you're considering consulting or you're doing other things or you're figuring out pricing strategy, there can be this temptation to go, let's make this thing so stupid cheap, no one will ever say no to it. And that, okay, it's a strategy. But the problem is that over time, when you start to need to recoup some of that cost, you've really established yourself as the cheap one. And it's really hard to break out of the cheap one brand. And it's a very painful jump. Now, like I said, are they big enough to do it? Probably. But to an independent consultant or someone who has a smaller business who builds a business on this and then goes, hey, guess what? Now we're a premium service. And people go, ha, yeah, no, I mean, I liked your stuff, like not that much. No way am I paying for that. Because you've built this expectation that you're inexpensive. And so I think that's the cautionary tale with this. To be completely honest, what they're increasing it to, I actually think for what you get is actually relatively reasonable. Now, granted, is it cheap like they used to market them? No, it's not. No, it's not. And there are cheaper alternatives to it. And again, I'm not going to sit and get into all the different competitors and which one you should use and things like that, even though I have an opinion on it. But I think they've now priced themselves in what I would consider a mid to premium tier product, which maybe they would have built it to that. But again, it just really depends on how people are using it. But to the folks who go, this is just, outrage. I can't believe they did it. Come on. It was stupid cheap before. It was too cheap. I mean, you couldn't, you couldn't get anything for this price before. So let's cut them a little bit of slack. But to the Canva folks, it's a little like 400%. I mean, are you sure you couldn't have met somewhere in the middle? And maybe that's what they're trying to do with the 40% discount for the first year to see, how are people going to respond? I don't know. But anyway, it would definitely, I'm sure if you look it up, you'll see lots of stuff on this. Okay. So let's transition to a really interesting one that I was like, ooh, but then as I read it, I was like, oh, I have mixed feelings about this. So there was this whole series of articles that was shared with me that I looked into about a leaked PowerPoint presentation, a leaked pitch deck from Cox Media Group. Okay, CMG, big marketing, advertising company type of a thing. And it's this leaked presentation that lists Facebook, Google, Amazon as their customers. And in their slides, they openly brag that they have active listening software, which is capturing real-time intent data from listeners' conversations. And then advertisers can pair this voice data with behavioral data in market customers. So I'm kind of reading some of the taglines. Let me just break it down for people who are like, I say, wow, like I don't know the corporate lingo or tech speak. Basically, what the leak deck said was, hey, we figured out how to hack people's microphones in their smart devices. And we are actively listening to everything they say. And we've found a way. And if you work with us, we can take that information that we gathered through their microphone and use it to help target market your products to people. That's essentially what is in the deck, that their claims are, that they're doing this. And as you can imagine, people blow up about it. Right. People are outraged about it. And, all these stories of, remember I was talking about that and I got on Facebook and then there was an ad for that. And I've had those same moments where I go, that's weird. Like I went on my phone and that happens to be the thing that's on Amazon right now. Like that's odd. Um, and so I understand where that comes from. And there is a part of me that goes, I have my suspicions that there are apps and companies who are monitoring, your microphone data and looking for keywords and things to try and connect things to stuff. I I think that's probably happening. But here's where I get a little bit nervous about that. It is so easy to start going down the conspiratorial train, and it's not good for you. It's not good for other people. It's not you can start to dwell, you can take the red pill and go on a trip down, have a bad trip of it just so crazy places about, yep, and I knew this is the Illuminati, and pretty soon this is how there's going to be the NWO is going to take over, and you're just like, oh, okay, let's calm down. Because first of all, one of the things that I would just kind of demystify some of this. These advertising companies do not care about your private conversation. They care about what they can say. You are their product. You're a product to them. You're nothing more than a product, a potential stream of revenue for them. So there's no value in selling. There's no value in capturing information other than to try and hook it up to products that they can sell you. Oh, you're having an argument. Maybe I should send a thing for BetterHelp, for therapy. You've been Googling depression. Maybe I'll send you a thing for, whatever. You get the trick of it. It's not the nefarious. I guess it depends on how you define nefarious. But I think sometimes it's easy to start going to these places of like there's these tech overlords who are thinking about controlling your life and what time you wake up in the morning and what you eat for breakfast. And I guess in some ways it's kind of like, well, I mean, they kind of do, but ultimately because they just want to sell you the breakfast cereal you eat and the smartwatch that you wear to wake you up. Like, so there's truth in it, but there's also not. And I think sometimes it's easy to gravitate towards the part that's speculation or hyperbole that can get us all fired up and freaked out. Okay. So that's where I want to demystify that a little bit. And I'm sure there are people who are going to be super upset with me and go, no, the Illuminati is trying to kill us. The elite are trying to take over the world. Let me just say, I've met some of these elite, and they're not the monsters that I think a lot of people make them out to be. I mean, in some ways they are, in that they care about money and themselves more than anything else at times. And they will exploit people for, whatever. Just Google what's going on with beast games right now. And you'll quickly see what happens when people become obsessed with power and money and say people are nothing more than a product. So I guess in some senses, I do agree and understand of like this is really dark. It's not good. It's evil. And it's not benefiting people at the end. I see that, but I also have seen this take people down a path of paranoia and fear and stuff where it's like, I mean, they not for the reasons you're freaking out about. You don't need to cover your house in brass or tinfoil to block the signals from this. It's just they're trying to figure out what you're doing so they can sell you more crap, so they can make more money, so they can take advantage of people to make more money. I mean, it's a messy system and it's broken and I hate it. And I look forward to the day when it's not like that anymore, but that's what's going on. Now, here's the other part that bothered me about it is when I looked into it, I looked at the responses from Facebook, Google, and Amazon, and all of them are like, I don't know who CMG is. They're not an approved partner. Like, we have nothing to do with them. I'm sorry. We've said we don't listen to your microphones. We don't listen to your microphones. Just because a leaked deck from an ad agency who's trying to get you to buy their advertising says they work with us and claims they can do this, it doesn't mean that's what we're doing. And while I understand the skepticism, so to the folks who are like, right, I get it. And even myself, there's a part of me that's like, are you telling me it's always a coincidence when I open this app, it happens to be something is that really what you're trying to sell me? So I understand where some of the skepticism comes from. But the part that is disappointing to me is that there's almost no room left for people to go, maybe CMG is just a shady advertising company who's lying about their clients and actually lying about their capabilities to sell to people. I mean, good grief. I've worked with enough vendors over the years. I can tell you that happens all the time. The number of pitches I've been given by people that I go, wait, you work with so-and-so? I know the people over there. They have never heard of you. And then all of a sudden well, not really. I once talked to one person in this one division and this other country, and they didn't end up buying, but we had a conversation. You're like, but you slapped their logo on your deck? And it wouldn't be the first time a company has grossly exaggerated what they're able to do to try and get you to buy their product. So my take on it is, should we be careful and maybe a little bit have a healthy suspicion for our devices and maybe I'm more aware of how our data is being used? Yeah. Do I regularly say, no, please don't share my advertising data across applications? Yes. Am I a little more careful about my settings and my privacy settings on stuff? Sure. Am I worried the Illuminati is listening to my conversation right now because my iPhone is sitting on my desk and I'm going to secretly be watched by government agencies because I talked about this on my podcast? No, because I might get an ad for a better microphone or a new webcam or a ring light. But at the end of the day, that's, as far as I'm concerned, where it's going to add. Now, if people have experience and actual proof and evidence, should we be watching for that? Absolutely. And if there's real evidence that comes out, then that's a different story. And I will have a very different opinion if real evidence comes out that this happened. But from what I could see with this situation, companies they're claiming say we don't even work with them. And it's a very vague markety type statements that they're making about what they can do. So anyway, that's that. All right. Next up, came across an article that was kind of flying around on LinkedIn that was talking about how leaders in organizations right now, bosses, are wrestling and grappling with the Gen Z workforce is quickly dominating the workplace and how much senior leaders and leaders in organizations are struggling with this and the expectations and the demands of Gen Z and all of this stuff. And as I read through the article, my two biggest reactions to this were, first of all, one, Gen Z is not a monogamous, like just group of people that all think, act, and behave this. I hate this crap. I literally hate this crap where people are painted with a broad stroke brush and we go, men are like this, women are like this, trans people are like this, Gen Z is like this. Like, stop it. They are individuals. There are individuals behind every single one of those people that have unique circumstances, unique stories, unique situations, unique wants, desires, needs. Like, they're individuals. So let's just not talk about how Gen Z is such a tough generation for leadership to cope with, because I know tons of Gen Zers who are phenomenal. I know tons of Gen Zers who are going through the cycle of what it's like to figure out who you are in your professional identity. And maybe you're pushing against things in a way that pisses off certain people. Like, they're people, they're human beings going through a certain phase in their life. And so might there be some general trends of how they're prioritizing things? Yes. That stage in life is a different stage in life. And a lot of the things that, as I read the article, Gen Z cares about this. Like, when I was in my mid 20s, I cared about that too. And it was super important to me. And I looked at what companies were doing and went, how stupid is that? You should just do it different, because I had very little experience and expertise in how things work. Like, I get it. Yeah. Okay. So there might be some general trends with that. Might be some general trends about the stage of life or the things that are important to them. But for every person who has that personality, I can think of a Gen Zer who I talked to who said, yeah, I don't care about that. Oh, Gen Z wants to be in the office and have mentorship. And I talked to somebody the other day. I hate going to the office. Like, and I don't want to be around my coworkers or any more than I have to. Like, wait though, aren't you Gen Z? Don't you adhere to this generational stereotype? We got to quit with this crap. And I think honestly, that's part of the problem. Like, reading the article and listening to how a lot of companies are handling this, like, what do we do with Gen Z workers? We're trying ping pong tables and therapy. Like, well, maybe start by not treating them like they're all this universal group of people who think and act and want the same freaking thing. That's a good start. So some of it was a little like, let's maybe just quit labeling them all with this universal label that is just honestly offensive. It's honestly offensive. Um, and like I say all the time, do stereotypes come from somewhere? Sure. And might there be some truth in them? Maybe, but they're always incomplete. And so Gen Z is not a certain way workplaces and bosses need to grapple with. Okay. So that's what, first of all, sets me off. The second thing that sets me off is as I listen to the article go into the things these bosses are grappling with, I look at them and go, why is this so hard? Why is it so hard to help your employees find purpose in their work? Why is it so hard to make them feel like they're cared about and developed and that they have connection within the organization they work in? Is that you're grappling with that? If you're a boss and you're grappling with that, listen, I'm about to launch a digital leadership program that I'll be leading. Join the program. I'll work with you and I'll help you realize how not to grapple with Gen Z because I've had plenty of Gen Zers under my leadership over the years, and I've never grappled with them. I've never struggled to figure out what to do with them. Have there been struggles? Sure. But that doesn't like I've never just universally gone, man, these Gen Zers are a Rubik's Cube I can't figure out. And as I looked at the things, air quote, the Gen Z wants, to me, they're things that just basic human decency, like things that I would think are completely reasonable asks. And the reality is, and here's the other thing that, excuse me, pisses me off about it is there are things that people in other generations care about too. But other generations have become salty and callous to some of this stuff and just have learned it's not going to change. And so I've just learned to put up with it. And so the new generation's coming in going, hey, but that's not okay. And I'm not fine with that. And we need to change things for the better. And you get the generations that have been around for a while that are like, yeah, we've been saying that on the engagement survey for the last 20 years. Ain't got us anywhere. And so just because the Gen Zers are the new loud ones, the new squeaky wheels, bringing up the things that are important, doesn't mean the other generations go, we don't care about that. I love feeling like I'm treated like a servant and just a cog in a wheel. I love going to work and not knowing if what I do matters one bit and that the company doesn't care about anything. Like, have you talked to anybody who's ever said that's how I actually feel about work? No, I know So as I read through this, I think we just need to be really careful about stereotyping. It is so dangerous. It will get you into so many tough spots. You will end up making assumptions about people that are completely wrong. Your best bet is to get to know people on an individual level and find out what's really important to them. And when you actually build trusting relationships with these people, well, then you know what? They're going to be 1,000 times more inclined to work with you and be awesome employees. And some of the best people I've led have been ones who have been young and hungry and wanted to do things. And I've been able to work with them and shape and mold and help them figure out what matters, not figure out what they're going to do for me, but help them figure out what's important to them and then set them on the right trajectory. And when you do that, people, not just Gen Zers, people will blow your mind. So there you go with that one. This one got me a little more riled. Gosh, it's weird. That one got me more riled than even my own personal situation. But I think the other thing is subtle plug. I'm hinting at something that's going to be coming out soon. I am going to be launching my digital leadership coaching, both cohort and individual coaching stuff that I will be offering to people. And so truly, while I got a little feisty there, if you're someone who really is struggling or you just want to be a better leader in general, let me know because it's an area I have spent a lot of time focusing on. And as a learning and human cognitive development specialist in this, it happens to be something I know a thing or two about. So more to come on that. But anyway, there's what happened. And that's the Wall Street Journal. So now let's go into this last one. This last one I think is just sad, but I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of this. So a gentleman, Martin Berklau, I think, over in Germany, he's a court reporter. Okay. Court reporter. What does a court reporter do? They take notes on everything that happens in the court. What kinds of things are discussed in the court? some pretty nasty, gross stuff because who often is in court? Criminals who have done some pretty nasty, gross stuff. And so what does a court reporter have to report on? Not great things. So poor Martin. Poor Martin happens to go out to Microsoft Copilot and ask Microsoft Copilot something about himself. I don't remember what. But as it turns out, Copilot had a lot to say about Martin Berklau, none of which was true. Okay? None of it was true. Now, this is where I get a little feisty about the terminology that gets thrown around. Because the way the articles that I read about it were framing this up is, oh, yet another series of AI hallucinations. It made these things up about Mark. It accused him of being a sex offender. It accused him of all this stuff. He is this. He's committed all these crimes, all this stuff. Now, if you've listened to me for very long, you're starting to probably understand where I'm going with this, where you're like, hallucination. Hallucination implies you literally just made something up out of thin air. But it didn't make it up out of thin air because remember, Martin's a court reporter who is responsible for writing up all of the gross, crappy stuff that happens in a courtroom and having his name attached to it. Did AI hallucinate these things about Martin? No, it did not. It somehow took all the information that it had associated with Martin and then claimed them to be true about him. Why? Because AI does not have context. It cannot understand things. And so when it just hears a bunch of information associated with a gentleman, over time it just goes, that is this gentleman. He is the one who's done all this stuff. Now, is it an error? Well, yeah, you bet it is. Isn't it an error with major implications? Like, can you imagine? Honestly, and this is the part that we should be concerned about. And I would actually encourage people to do this. Go to your favorite AI tool and ask it to find out and describe you. Like, go out to it. And if it doesn't find you right away, like, give it more details. Go find out about, do internet research on so-and-so. They happen to be here, whatever. And tell me what you know about that person and watch what it says back and ask it some follow-up questions on it. Well, how would people feel about this? Anyway, poor Martin. If someone were to do a quick check on the gentleman and go out to the internet and rather than go to Google or his LinkedIn, they decide, you know what, I just rather turn off my brain and let AI tell me about who Martin is because I don't really want to think. And then they just get this report back of, whoa, he did all this stuff. And again, I'm not going to think and check on it. I'm just going to go, wow, this sounds like a really bad dude. I don't want to hire him. Oh my gosh, he's my neighbor. What a monster he is. Like, this has serious, serious implications on things. Here's where it gets worse. Okay. So Martin went and he filed a complaint with Microsoft and said, well, no, he filed a complaint. He filed a complaint with the legal system over there and said, this is slanderous information. It's false information that is out there being generated on me. Okay. And it's not accurate. And the legal system kind of goes, I mean, there's really nothing we can do. And you want to know why? You want to know what the reason behind it is? Well, because there's no person that they can really tie it back to as the originator of the claims. So because there's not a personhood, when we talk about AI, it's going to become a bigger and bigger and bigger deal as we start to have AI do things that we don't want it to do. And we go, man, who do we blame? There's not really a person who did it. There's this AI thing, but this AI thing is just so big and ethereal. I guess we can't do anything. And that's essentially what the legal system said to him. They're like, hey, yeah, that's awful, man. It really sucks that one of the biggest AI models in the world thinks you're this sociopathic monster. Unfortunately, there's really not a darn thing we can do about it. And that's tragic. Now, granted, he went to Microsoft and told them about it, shared the fake content, and their cybersecurity division said they will delete it, which sounds like, oh, great. Unfortunately, now his name, at least at the time of the article being written, is completely blocked. So like if you ask about him or anything, there's nothing, which you may go, good, I don't want my name on, whatever. But you also got to understand not having your name in potentially one of the biggest AI models out there. I'm telling you, these things are going to start to become embedded in everything. Have your name blocked has implication because let's say that company you go apply for uses an AI tool to validate your who you are, and suddenly that you've been blocked from that AI tool, and suddenly now they can't find this information. And rather than dig into it, they just go, "Well, we couldn't find anything. We're just going to decline them as a candidate." Or, I mean, you start to think about the implications of this. It's really serious. It's really, really serious. And so you might go, oh my gosh, you were talking about how we don't need to be afraid of the Illuminati before, but boy, now I'm really worried about it. Here's the call that I am going to try and put out there. One, I think this is an anomaly. And I don't think that doesn't mean, oh, let's just let it go and let's not deal with it. No, we've got to figure out how to deal with something. And the whole, well, no person did it. That's not a viable legal justification for things. So we got to figure that out. That's a problem. Okay. But to the everyday user who may hear this story and freak out that AI is now out for you because it has your, demise in its sights, most people, this is not going to be the case. Honestly, most people, that's why I would encourage you to do it. Ask it to go find out information about you and what does it have to say about you. I think most people would find it doesn't really know anything other than maybe what you have on LinkedIn or something like that. Like it doesn't, most people do not have a lot of public stuff. For public people, you might want to, and this is advice I give to my kids now all the time. And this is just good advice against for anybody. You better be darn sure you are really, really careful what you put out and attribute to your name on the internet. And look, we talked about Gen Z earlier. I made some stupid mistakes in my youth. And I know we all go through those phases, and even some adults never learn from them and they just keep doing it. We all do stupid stuff and it can come back to haunt you. But this now more than ever should be a warning of, hey, you better be really, really thoughtful and careful about what you put on the internet that can be associated with you. Because if you are out there creating content, creating whatever, or, doing all this stuff, and it's not something you would necessarily want to even get mixed up in, you just need to be really careful about it. Just be really careful about it. And so to that, I would say be really thoughtful about what you say or post or share on the internet, because especially now where AI is capable of literally consuming everything on the internet. That tweet you posted 8 years ago that you should have deleted, that you didn't, that you maybe should have never posted in the first place. Yeah, it'll find that DM or whatever that you sent, or that Reddit thread you started and referenced your name, whatever that you think, that was 20 years ago. Nobody will ever find that. Oh, AI will find it. AI will find it and it will associate it with you. And at some point, it'll hallucinate that is who you are. And so, just think twice. Think twice about this stuff. And I think that's my cautionary tale to people, because this may be an extreme example. And you might go, well, I'm not a court reporter writing about all these horrible things and my name's associated with it. Like, oh, okay, maybe not. But, you know, if you have a history of going into public Facebook groups and saying all sort of horrible things, or you're on Telegram saying all sorts of crap that is directly associated with you, and you're like, nobody will ever find it. AI will find it. It will find it and it will connect it to you and it will bring it back into the light. And so I would just tell people, be very careful. Be very careful. And ultimately, not just be careful. Here's the thing. If really you're doing stuff that you wouldn't be proud of, maybe you should look in the mirror and go, how do I change that about myself? Because whatever you're hiding will eventually be brought to light. That's the reality of it. Whether you share my worldview or not, I watched it happen to people who are not Christians plenty of times. The Beast Games thing is one that is just yet another one. You think you're going to get away with stuff, and eventually things come out. And when it does, it's that much worse. So how about instead of just trying to get better at hiding it, just get better at rooting it out of your life? You'll be a better person for it. So that, I hope you have a wonderful Friday, a wonderful weekend, and we will see you on the other side.
To